Stagnation, welcome back to the channel. Central bank digital currencies or CBDCs are also called fiat digital currencies, if you will. These are issued by a central bank, right, rather than commercial banks. And today, we're going to be talking about 5 critical facts about CBDCs.
7.
Are there 7?
Yes, sir.
Typo. My apologies. And then we're going to compare it against Bitcoin to see how that stacks up. Double up. Take it away, sir.
Number 1. CBDCs are inspired by Bitcoin.
Right.
Nobody was talking about CBDCs until Bitcoin came on the show after the 2008 financial crash. And it's different from CBDCs because it's fiat. It's just basically the same thing, except for in this case, it's just auto print, man.
Yeah. It seems to be fiat with in the controls of a different entity. So instead of banks, then we have, essentially the government themselves could issue the CBDC. So the second thing then, I guess the second main fact here, most CBDCs implementations will likely not need to use a distributed ledger such as a blockchain. So,
they will use
governments
the technology type, but it will
exactly.
not be.
It would not be decentralized. Yeah. So essentially, we could just run this thing on an AWS server paid for by the government and run it that way.
And then it's going to get hacked by North Korea.
Oh my God.
Or Russia.
Oh my God. Oh God, no. Yeah. Hey, I think this is a good time to let people know that notice that Bitcoin has not been hacked and destroyed yet by anyone.
Banks are still getting hacked every day. Even the entire Pentagon got hacked. State Department got hacked.
When you look at information breaches, but I guess in some ways, man, making sure that things can be hackable is a good business, because look at it now. People like McAfee can say, hey, we'll scan the internet for your leaked information if you pay $2.99 more for antivirus plus.
Plus.
Or is it the Pro Plus? Right? There we go. Number 3 then, CBDCs are presently in the hypothetical stage and proof of concept in some programs.
Yeah. In America, yeah. But in some countries, it's here to stay.
This is true. We see China, which, in many ways, I think China in itself, the structure of its government is a CBDC itself, man. That authoritarian sort of.
Yeah, authoritarian, totalitarian. Wow.
Exactly. So I think people need to decide for themselves, what sort of future they would like to live in. For me personally, I know that that's not the future I like to live in. This is why we speak about these things. We talk about these things because the more people we can inform, the better. Because we've seen what happens in societies where you have this total control of the society by
absolute power corrupts
leadership.
Absolutely.
Exactly. It does not end up well. And we know for sure that when these sort of things continue, there is definitely going to be retaliation. Again, if you look at China right now.
China.
It's not the first time. Carry on, sir. Next point.
According to the ECB chief, Christine Lagarde, more than 80 central banks are looking to implement CBDCs.
That's quite interesting.
That's a lot of countries.
Yeah.
A lot of sleeping citizens.
Absolutely. A lot of sleeping citizens. And speaking of sleeping citizens, I just have to add, this is also coming from a sleeping banker, right? Because this is the same lady that could not explain
where inflation is coming from.
Yeah, she doesn't know where inflation is coming from. But you know where CBDCs are going to come from? Listen, the system is a scam. It's time for us to exit the scam.
People, wake up, please. Stop sleeping.
Well,
Stop
it is
sleeping.
what it is, man. It is what it is. Now, fifth point here, some central banks have implemented CBDCs, such as China.
Of course.
We spoke about that. Other countries that have implemented some sort of CBDC as well include the Central Bank of the Bahamas, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, DCash, they call it, the Central Bank of Nigeria, E-Naira,
Nonsense.
out of all people. You know, I have to say, man, Nigeria in some ways, it's like it's a shocking place, it seems to me, because there are certain situations where it's like, hey, you should definitely handle that first, such as flooding, right? But no, they're doing CBDCs first.
Changing the face of their currency.
Exactly. There's things that they should be handling first, like making sure that there's good infrastructure and so on and so forth. But no, there is soldiers doing parachute tests falling out of the sky into the city out of nowhere. I know you saw that video.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Okay. When I saw that, I was like, what is going on here?
Please priorities.
Yeah, talk about it, right? All right. Well, we also have Jamaica with a Jamdex, man. They call it. I do not know Jamaica had a CBDC until then, you know. And of course, the United States is currently testing CBDCs in several states, they say.
Yeah, literally, 9 senators literally submitted the paper over this past week,
Right.
saying that CBDCs are very, very critical and very important to the U.S. government, that it needs to be implemented. So now they're trying to push it into the table of things to start pushing to look into. 9 senators.
Worried about CBDCs. I think there's other things we need to worry about, like making sure that elections are not confusing. There should be no confusion in elections in a first world country. Okay.
Simplifying the tax system.
At a point in time when there is technology that can solve that problem very clearly. Like, forget about blockchain technology, right? We live in a time where the technology exists for all of us to vote from our phones, file our taxes automatically.
You're pushing AML, you're pushing all this technology that you're using to track other people's money. How about you use that same system to vote?
It's kind of like Nigeria, right? You should fix the road, but no, we have to go do this parachute test. It's kind of out of place. So I guess the theme is really consistent across the world. It's just on different levels. You know, it's just
those in power are corrupt.
There literally should not be people arguing about the integrity of votes in a leading nation like America. It's embarrassing.
It should not even take
honestly.
days. Imagine.
Exactly. It could be instant, you know. Moving on then, we know there are 2 types of CBDCs. You have your wholesale CBDC and your retail. Sorry, did I just say wholesale? Wholesale.
It's a hotel. It's a
right.
you got to trace it.
Right. So you have your wholesale CBDCs and your retail CBDCs. The BIS, Bank of International Settlements, wrote an interesting paper on this one, right? I think that these people, obviously, over the past year or so, have just been waiting for a crypto crash, and then they go ahead and release an interesting PDF, which makes it look like they know what they're talking about. But we know it's just a scheme to push on their whatever it is they have going on there.
It's basically creating 2 class of people.
2 class of people, 2 class of money.
Yep. And then there's going to be those that are saying, you know what, you're a little guy, your transfer was money laundering, but hey, I'm a big company. I can move money anyhow. That's the money laundering.
Exactly. So in such a case, then, it seems that society would just be clearly in a point where the wealthy can just set up whatever, a company, and interact with their money however they see fit, and no one else can question them about it. Meanwhile, if you're using a retail CBDC, right,
they
the eyes are on you
from traveling to any country.
Exactly.
They can say you don't agree with you. They can take your money away from you.
This is absolutely unacceptable. Cannot happen. Not at all. Not at all. It's one of those things.
Mm.
If this should happen in any society, right? I think that I will be transferring myself to a society where this is not happening.
Back to the village, I guess.
I'm going back to the village, sir. Okay. Back to the village. Moving on then. The seventh and most critical fact here is that implementing and using a database run by a central bank or government, right? Or say an approved private sector to handle this sort of situation.
Like the feds.
Like the feds, right? Or entities with the ability to print limited amount of digital currencies like they really are doing right now. It will keep every detailed record of its user in its database with, sorry about that, I lost my train of thought there. I should have to cut the video now. Dang. It would keep every detailed record of its users base with the appropriate privacy and cryptographic protections, so they claim, including the amount of money held by every entity. I think that this is like, you just have to skip past the discussion of privacy, because at this point it's just under the assumption that your privacy is voided at this point. Your opinion in the situation will not have to count. What if you don't want your information to be stored by them? Right? So that is
that's major. I think that to me tells me a lot about what Twitter just uncovered.
That's ridiculous.
If governments can direct and say this is what we want to happen, which is what they were basically doing with Twitter, which we're not finding out that YouTube, Facebook, all of them were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Then imagine they're doing that with social media. Now imagine what they can do with your money. Because your money is literally you. If I use my money to get my haircut, you can literally tell a trend of how much does Kenny spend on his haircut on a regular basis. That can tell you a lot about somebody. So now the government have full control of your money. That means you are literally now past anonymous. You are not just a number to them. And they can do anything, whatever it is. You didn't vote for them, guess what? Your money is going to get impacted.
It's interesting you said that, because I was just going to say the same thing. Like, imagine that we were in a society of CBDCs back when Trump was running, right? All the Democrats would have had to do then is to just put some pressure on whatever entity manages the CBDC and tell them, like, hey, if anyone is registered as a Republican, shut off their money right now. Right? You can see how quickly that
about Muslims.
Yeah, exactly. You can see how quickly that is going to go bad. You go from a normal society to straight up tyranny in zero. Like, it's instant,
like that.
Just like that, right? And it's over. This is why I say things like this cannot happen. The idea that this is even things that we're talking about in a country that is supposed to be free. Okay, we'll leave it there. Now, we have some comparisons, Double O. I don't know if you want to share your screen on this one, just to look at some comparisons between CBDCs, which is everything that we've spoken about here,
Let me put that
and
together.
this parallel running system, which we already currently have, which some might already be ignoring as it is, right? Which is Bitcoin. I know every video we speak about, we kind of end up at this point where we have to talk about Bitcoin. But I think, we cannot be complaining about a situation and not having a solution to it. And as far as I know, I think that this is the most viable solution right now for society.
Yep. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. Here is a comparison. Number one. CBDCs are telling you that there's no need to rely on intermediaries such as banks or clearinghouses. Money transfers and payments could be made in real time directly from payer to the payee.
Sounds
Isn't
like
that a copycat of Bitcoin?
Sounds like Bitcoin.
Right?
It is Bitcoin. Bitcoin really does that.
Merchants
We have.
transaction.
Go ahead.
Merchant number two. Merchants transactions latency and login. Okay, yeah, it takes a while right now on the current system to move money because of its ACH, its SWIFT systems, delayed system. That is why we have the blockchain, right? Decentralized. No need for multiple ledgers. One ledger, all the information accurate all the time.
Yeah,
Bitcoin already
absolutely.
doing that. And on layer two, it's faster.
This is true.
Done.
Lightning Network.
Boom. Right? Number three, reduces or eliminates transaction fees for systems like Visa, MasterCard, American Express. This is actually direct competition with commercial banks, by the way, if they don't know. So I can see maybe why some of these banks are now jumping into Bitcoin, because MasterCard, Visa are already jumping on Bitcoin because they now see that these central bankers are coming after their money. That could make a lot of sense why these guys are adopting Bitcoin. Bitcoin, on Lightning Network, you don't have transaction fees. So what are you talking about?
Exactly. So it's it's and this is the crazy thing about it, man. Bitcoin is fully functional, operational right now as we speak. Right? It's not something that needs to be, and it has been operational for a very long time. And I think it's really just a matter of education for society to really get on board and start learning how to use these technologies. We can definitely post the complete list that we have here on our Twitter, you know, and our Facebook if you would like to take a read of all of it. We know it's an extensive list. But this is a really good comparison, if you will. And what you will find, the pattern here is just that there is all of these things that the central bankers are trying to achieve, right? They talk about tax evasion and so on and so forth. Like, dude, people are evading taxes right now. You know, and it's not because of Bitcoin. You know, and and the people who are evading taxes right now, they will likely end up on what earlier we spoke about, the retail versus the wholesale CBDCs. They will likely end up on a wholesale CBDC anyway, because if you have that much money to be avoiding taxes, right, you could probably end up in that position where you have that wholesale CBDC. So it would just be continuous tyranny for the small person,
which is,
you know. So exactly. So instead of them trying to hide their wealth in the Bahamas and all of this other stuff, and people researching it and finding out, they can just hold the money and just hold it in a wholesale CBDC, but you cannot see it. So we'll definitely be publishing this list on our where we posting Twitter, as well as on, which, by the way, we need to also get it up on our website once we have that popping for sure. So that is the trend that you will notice with this list. All of these things that the central banks are trying to do. However, Bitcoin is clearly doing it better already without that centralized entity stepping on everyone's neck. We can see the examples of what CBDCs do in societies like China and some of the others that we have mentioned earlier. So I think everyone sort of needs to take a moment to compare what sort of future they would like to be living in, right? You cannot print more Bitcoins. There will only be 21 million of them. So even, you know, you talk to people who are not aware, and they'll say maybe you can, the people who are mining have the power. It's just, it does not work that way, right? There's more studying to be done there. Final thoughts, sir?
It's literally that simple, man. I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're watching us right now and you've not liked and subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that. We're STAKK on YouTube, STAKK on Twitter. This is where all the action takes place. And of course, you know, there's social platforms like STAKK and, you know, on Facebook and Instagram. We're there as well. But
yes,
yeah,
sir.
man, Spotify, the old podcast game. If you want to get on the show, have a conversation with us, it's okay. You can disagree with us. If you do disagree with us, come on the show. Let's have a conversation.
Absolutely. Cannot be one-sided, you know. We like to have both sides of the situation, because maybe sometimes there are things we are not thinking about. Let us know in the comments. Ladies and gentlemen, and alternatives. I thought I should add that in there today, just in case. Hey, man. Times are changing, you know. Thank you for giving us your ears. Until next time, Brazen out.